What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And of course, this video is clearly about Bo Nickal, who you see on the right side of my screen. I thought it was pertinent to make this video today because a couple of things have come out since yesterday. One thing in particular that I think is crazy, and you guys need to check this out. I'm going to link the video in the description. You guys got to check out MMA Joey's video on Bo Nickal. Now, just to give you a head, you should definitely do it. I think MMA Joey makes really good content, but you can tell MMA Joey, I don't know if he'll say he dislikes Bo Nickal or hates Bo Nickal, but he's really, let's say, has had a negative view of Bo Nickal for quite some time. He felt like he was overhyped. I think he doesn't really like his personality, so he really goes in on him. I'm taking I have a different perspective on Bo Nickal. I actually appreciate the fact that he's in the sport, and I will tune in every time he competes. I didn't mind the fact, for example, that he was on the main card at UFC 300. I thought that made sense for the UFC. He is a big star. He's a big name. He's coming with a lot of hype. He talks a lot of smack. He talks negatively about guys that have done so much in the sport like DDP and Hamzat. And I think that's part of the reason also why he's so well known, maybe in a negative way, because he's not afraid to get out there and talk about how good he believes he is and talk negatively about other guys, etc. Okay. But so I do think Bo Nickal is good for the sport. I do think he has a future in the sport. Obviously, I'm not a fighter, so you can take my opinion for what it's worth. But my co-host Justin, who has fought in the UFC, believes that if Bo Nickal can put certain parts of his game together, he could be a champ one day. Maybe not in the next year or two, but one day. But this video is more about why people seem to have turned on Bo Nickal so much. And I think what MMA Joey pointed out in his video, I'm going to play a clip from that as well. What he pointed out, I think, is at the heart of why people don't like Bo Nickal. And it also gets to what I always say is the reason why people gravitate towards or love certain fighters. It's authenticity. Authenticity, being yourself. And some people, you have to use what you're given, right? Like Conor McGregor, whatever you want to say about him, I do think he's being himself, and himself is being a smack talker, being funny, being silly, being goofy, like making fight predictions, being bold. That's in his nature. So he's not putting on an act. So it's authentic. And that authenticity translates as well, really, really well, because he is really funny. He's got these other attributes. I think Hamzat Chimaev is another interesting example. Same as Khabib. Both guys had massive followings. They don't do it like Conor. They're being themselves through and through. You can see that everything Khabib says, he means. Everything Hamzat says, he means. Where people get into trouble, or I think where fans start to turn on a fighter or person in general, is I think when you're trying to present a particular image or a view of yourself that is not authentic. And as soon as people can see the chinks in the armor that what you're presenting is false, I think that's when they get really riled up and upset. So coming back to Bo Nickal, I know he tried. I feel like maybe from his training as being in the spotlight as a college wrestler, he definitely wants to, I believe, put on a very positive outward view of himself to the public. Talks about God, religion, family, and all of these great things. I think he wants to be a role model. But then on the other side, he's really confident. He's really arrogant. He will talk down about other fighters. And I think that this is what has gotten some of the fans riled up. So it's like, it's this weird thing of, hey, he wants to put forth this really positive image to be a role model, then kind of talking trash. And I think people sense some sort of incongruence there. I think this is what I think is causing some of the issues with Bo Nickal and why people have turned on him so much. Then MMA Joey showed this exactly, where he goes on Ariel's show, he presents a certain viewpoint of fans and negative sentiment. And then on his own podcast, he has a completely different way of like talking about the haters. I'm going to show you that. It's going to blow you away, because this is something from his own podcast that he actually deleted. MMA Joey found it. So you can tell he's trying to curate his image and he's trying to present himself in a certain way. And I just don't think it's what he really feels. And I'm going to give some thoughts in the end of the video as to how I think Bo Nickal can win a lot of fans back. If he cares, maybe he doesn't. But it's very simple. Just put it out there. If this is how you actually feel, I say just go with it, because it actually is going to play into maybe you taking on the heel role, as people like to say. But anyways, let's first start with this interview from Ariel Helwani show, where Bo Nickal is talking about the haters, because he received a ton of hate after losing to RDR. I think so many fans loved the fact that Bo Nickal lost, with all the hype, with the negative sentiment, etc. It's also turned RDR into a star as well, even bigger star. But check out what Bo Nickal has to say in response to a lot of the negative comments he got after losing to RDR.
Do you allow yourself to read any of this stuff online?
I don't, I've had a lot of people texting me like how mad it makes them that they see some of this stuff and they're like, I'm gonna tell these people off, this and that. I'm like, just let them be. It's fine. It's part of the job, and it's my life. And so I think that the hate and the negativity, I'm totally okay with it, totally comfortable with it. And I just honestly like pray for those people and hope that they aren't just like they're the only reason that they can send that in my direction is because they're full of that. And I would pray that they find a better path. And I think that, I even got some texts personally from people that were trying to put me down in a way. And when I see that, it honestly, like, it doesn't make me mad. It just makes me sad, because I just think there's a lot of that negativity in the world. And I don't know. It makes me sad.
I think you listen to that, and I think you could take it a couple of ways. Number one, maybe this isn't really how he feels, but it's how he's trying to make himself feel. And that I can understand. Of course, you're going to be upset, though. If I think if you're going to get some sort of like this barrage of negativity, I mean, you get a little bit of hate here and there, you kind of laugh it off, and it's not a big deal. But I think the natural response would be to get aggravated. He's putting everything into his career. He's trying his hardest. He's going out there, giving it his all. And a lot of folks who don't even have the courage to even step in the cage once are being hypercritical of his performance, rooting for his downfall. I imagine that's got to be aggravating. So I think the natural response is to be aggravated, is to be upset, but maybe he wants to project something else for other reasons. Or maybe he even feels like giving in or even admitting that the hate is getting to him will encourage more hate, right? That could happen as well. People sense the vulnerability, they smell the blood in the water, and they want to go harder at him because they dislike him for so many of these reasons. It could be, so there could be a reason why he's saying what he's saying. But I think the thing is that people reckon, I'm going to cue up this next clip here. People are sensing something is off. They're sensing that he's presenting that way, but I don't think they really believe him. I think that's a big part of the reason why people don't like Bo Nickal. Now, this is kind of confirmation. And I guess I don't listen to Bo Nickal's show or podcast too much. I've heard it a couple times. Actually, they have some decent episodes. I just not one of the, I listen to so many of these MMA podcasts, so I can't follow all of them. So it's just not one that I tune into regularly, but apparently people caught that he released the podcast with a particular clip in there. And then later on they went out and they cut it out. So you can see it's obvious. He's trying to project a certain image, and so he's curating his content accordingly, but this one slipped out. And now people are once again, I think whatever their suspicions is that he's not being authentic, now it's confirmed. Because now we're seeing what he truly feels. That's what he said in Ariel's show. And this is his real thoughts, his real beliefs, his real feelings. But they cut him out because now they don't want to share it. I say just share it. I say put it out there. I'm going to talk about that later on in the video at the very end in terms of what I think Bo Nickal should do to, if he cares to rehabilitate his image to some extent. But anyways, listen to this. This is crazy. So imagine before on Ariel's show, he said, I want to pray for my haters. It doesn't bother me. It's part of the job. Now we hear how he really feels.
And all the people that, it's interesting, of course, you mentioned there's a lot of positive and a lot of negative.
Keep in mind, he's praying for the haters. He wishes them the best. He believes in God, and that's his foundation. And he doesn't care what anyone says because it doesn't affect his life.
Negative, all the negative. For me, I look at that and all I say is just like, suck my. At the end of the day, like, say what you want, but when I get back on top and when I'm the freaking champion of the world,
all crawling back.
You all
get back on top of what? The guy sitting across from you? I know you damn well he ain't talking about get on top of the UFC.
And again, remember, you have to take this with a grain of salt because MMA Joey really does not like Bo Nickal. I'm not nitpicking on those little statements of like get back on top or whatever. But I mean, yo, he's right there. He's telling him how he feels. Think about if any other fighter said this. It wouldn't even be a big deal. Yeah, go ahead, talk smack to the haters. Say what you think they should do and whatnot. There's nothing wrong with that. So I don't even know why he took this clip out. In my opinion, I think this is exactly what he needs to say and exactly what he needs to put out there. Tell people how you feel that you're upset. Fire back a little bit as opposed to just saying, nope, turn the other cheek. It's all good. I'm going to pray for you. That's my thoughts. But anyways, MMA Joey continues. There's more to this clip.
Because that ain't never going to happen. Never.
All come crawling back.
They always do.
They always do. They always do. And I'll spit right in your face as soon as you crawl back and, you know, Bo, come give me an interview, blah, blah, blah.
Where were you?
Where were you? Where were you? And guess what? I'm going to say, okay, come over here. Loogie right between the eyes.
Could you imagine this?
Okay, we're going to pause. So Joey is outraged by Bo Nickal saying all this stuff. I don't see a problem with it. He's a fighter. People say stuff like this all the time. People say crazy things in buildups. He's not saying anything to personally attack people. He's, I think, venting, talking about his frustration. And I don't think it's an unreasonable place to come from, to have that frustration. You just lost on a huge stage. Everybody is applauding your loss. People are sending you crazy messages, posting terrible things on your social media. He's just getting an influx of negativity. You're allowed to say some negative stuff back if that's truly how you feel. Now, I get trying to be positive and trying to have a different outlook on it. But to me, I think it's not reading true to fans. And I think that's what's causing some of the disconnect with him and a lot of mixed martial arts fans. All right, now I'm just going to show this little clip about MMA Guru talking to Demetrius Johnson on this recent Mighty Mouse podcast. You guys should check this out. This interview is amazing. I'd say listen to it in its totality because MMA Guru also gives a lot of very interesting, he gives background into his life before he began his channel and why he began his channel, but also embedded in there are a lot of great life hacks, life tips about choosing an avenue based on your skill sets and natural strengths, and then just believing in those natural abilities that will carry you through to be successful. It's really good stuff, and I'm especially impressed considering how young MMA Guru is. So it's really insightful. But I digress. Listen to this very, very interesting clip about basically negative fan sentiment being canceled, if you will, but I think it applies exactly to Bo Nickal. Check this out. He's talking about MMA Guru's rise and why, even though MMA Guru says controversial things all the time, he still has a loyal following.
So don't come over here and tell me I need to change my tune.
Yes.
You can mute me.
Yep.
Mute me, please. You don't have to. But don't be mad just because I'm killing it and I've never changed. I never changed coats. And I shouldn't have to change coats now that I built this audience.
You only get cancelled if you reveal yourself as something that they thought you weren't.
Yeah.
That people thought you weren't. So if you see someone, like if someone who's like a good example of this.
And then they go into an example and they talk about Shannon Sharp, which I don't even think is a good example of this. But the point is if you're trying to, I mean, this happens to politicians all the time because politicians think they have to put on this squeaky clean persona. I always did right. I never did anything bad, or at least maybe that used to be how it was. I don't know. Maybe things are changing, but you put it on and it's just not the case for the vast majority of them. It's actually quite the opposite. And so when you put on that persona and then people are like, wait a minute, you're like really not being honest. You just put on a whole fake act. It's gross. I think we all have that natural feeling towards somebody being fake. It's probably one of the biggest insults you can throw at somebody is you're a fake person. You know what I mean? Because you're so insecure in who you are and what's inside of you that you feel like you have to put on an act and a persona. So it's really, I think that's the number one thing, or one of the number one things that can really rub people the wrong way with respect to you and how they feel about you. So coming back to my final thoughts on what I think would be great for Bo Nickal. Obviously, Bo Nickal is still doing, as much negativity as people want to spew at Bo Nickal, he's doing a great job. Everybody knows who he is. He's got a great relationship with the UFC. He's going to get another fight. I think they're going to give him a favorable matchup. I think he's going to win. He's going to bounce back. He's going to keep training, etc. But if I were to give my thoughts on what could rehabilitate his image in the eyes of the public, I say don't edit that stuff out. If that's how you feel, if you want to say F you, if you want to spit and say you want to spit in the fans' faces for talking smack, I think that's great, especially at this point. Lean into it a little bit. Lean into being the heel, especially if that's really how you feel. I don't see what's so bad about talking back. And, we see fighters do things 10 to 100 times worse than that. So that's my perspective. I think this is what's causing some of the issues. Disconnect, putting on an image that is not congruent with what you really feel, with what you really believe, and who you really are. Also, talking a little smack, leaning into the heel, that also aligns with all the things he said about other fighters that seem to piss people off so much. Remember, Conor McGregor talked negatively about everybody, and it eventually morphed into a lot of distaste for him, turned into fandom once he went out and actually achieved what all the stuff that he was saying he was going to achieve. Everybody thought he was just full of hot air, but then he proved it, and then he became one of the biggest stars in the sport, or arguably, I guess you could say, the biggest star in the sport. So that's what I think you should do. Lean into it. Put it out there. You don't have to put on this squeaky clean image. And that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you also agree that this is why Bo Nickal is so disliked? Let me know your thoughts. And do you think he should also do what I'm recommending? Thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you in the next video. Take it easy.